Today we're going to talk about why you need a DJ and how to choose a good one. We are here with DJ Krieger, who's going to give us some stories and some advice for couples that are planning right now. Let's get started.
So why is it important to have a DJ? I mean, you can take away from my personal experience one reason why it's very important to have a DJ, but I'd love to hear from you, DJ Krieger, about why you think it's important.
Well, why did you think it wasn't important? Like, why did you opt for just the Spotify playlist? Because I think that it's not uncommon. A lot of people think this, so maybe some people have the same idea. What was your thinking?
I think I just forgot, honestly. We totally forgot to get a sound system and ask somebody to do the music for us. It just wasn't on our mind like the other things were.
Right,
yeah. Like the decorations or the food or things like that. It just fell by the wayside for some reason.
I know. I mean, it hurts my heart a little bit to hear that, but it's not uncommon, believe it or not. I mean, when we, think about things and we plan things, we think with our eyes. We think about all the things you see, the flowers, the cake, the dress, the linens, how everything's going to look. And sometimes you get so caught up in that you forget, well, how is it going to feel? What's the experience going to be like? What are my guests going to be thinking throughout the night? How are they going to be feeling? And that's really why you need a DJ. A lot of people think, oh, we just need music. Well, of course you need music. I mean, if you've ever been to a restaurant without music, it's a pretty awkward experience. Yeah. But the DJ isn't just there to play music. The DJ is really responsible for how everyone's feeling throughout the night. DJ is also responsible for making sure that everything stays on time and that the whole event feels like a flowing, seamless experience instead of maybe a choppy set of things happening in a particular place.
Right.
And all that happens, a lot of which behind the scenes, with the planner or the coordinator and the photographer and all the other people who are involved in all the moving pieces of a wedding. But a trained DJ, will know how to anticipate things, know how to read the room, and know how to react accordingly.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times people try to have like their cousin or their friend be that DJ, and then you hear like text messages, you're like, click, 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 and it's not a good experience. Yeah. Everyone's just like, oh, let's plug it in. Oh, I don't have the connector. Oh, I don't have this. Oh, like, it's your ceremony. Like, let me turn this song on. So having a DJ, hiring a quality DJ is super, super important. If you had to do it over again, would you hire a DJ?
Oh, absolutely. That'd be the first thing I did. If I could do my wedding over, I would totally have a DJ. It'd be one of the first things I thought about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that you said, you're right. I think people try to figure out, why should I need a good DJ if I can choose my own music? Like, I can make a playlist. I think I have good quality in the music that I want to listen to.
Everyone does.
Yeah. But then when you start going to the wedding and you start making a playlist and people are listening to the music, does it fit the mood or the style of your wedding? Like, are you choosing Ludacris just to choose it, or is it going to get the party going?
Yes, if I could do it over, I would definitely have a DJ. It would be one of the first things on my list.
Yeah, and you're right. I think a lot of times DJs do way more than just pick a playlist. So how do people find a good DJ?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of people think, well, I've got good taste in music, so I could pick the songs for my wedding. But the thing is, it's always going to be different in your head than it is there. Yeah. And you don't hire a DJ because of their particular taste in music. In fact, good DJs won't really let their personal tastes in music factor into what they're playing at your event. Because it's not them. They're not a nightclub DJ that you're going to see to hear a particular kind of music with all your friends who are expecting that kind of music to dance. No one at your wedding is there to hear the DJ. People are at your wedding because it's your wedding.
Right.
And they want to celebrate. And that includes everyone. Yeah. Not just your friends, but your parents and your grandparents and your cousins and maybe nieces and nephews.
Right.
And
they come for an experience.
They come for an experience, and they might come from all over the country or all over the world.
Yeah.
They all have different tastes in music. Some of them, they don't even like to go dancing.
Right.
So what is it that is going to bring all of those people together? normal person wouldn't know that. I didn't know that until, this kind of became my career. Something you learn all over a while with a lot of experience.
And that's what a playlist cannot offer. You can't cater a playlist just to all of those different types of people.
No, yeah. I mean, the best way to find a DJ is to find someone who's had experience with the DJ, or working with a trusted wedding planner, or one of your other vendors who has seen the DJ before, and say, yep, I can recommend this person to you. And if that's not available, if that's not something at your disposal, when you're looking at the DJs, see what material they have to offer, sample videos, sample mixes, and don't focus so much on the individual songs that you hear, but more the order in which they're played. Can you feel kind of the energy shift? Does it feel natural and organic, or does it feel kind of forced, contrived? Does it seem like the DJ is just kind of pandering, and does it seem like this could be anyone's wedding, and that all the songs there are just very generic and just fill in the blank? Because maybe those are the songs that DJ plays at every wedding. Some DJs do that, especially some DJs that work for these larger DJ companies. Because if I owned a big DJ company, it would be very hard for me to train 20 guys all of the knowledge and experience that I have, and all of the music that I know, especially. I mean, there's so much music out there. But I could say, hey, you're going to play these songs in this order at every wedding, and you'll have an adequate time. People will dance. People will have a fine time. It won't be maybe a particularly memorable or exceptional wedding.
It's not like a customized experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's enough. Music isn't a huge part of everyone's life. Some people, they just listen to podcasts, and they don't, have music on in the background or when they're driving, and they're not, checking out the newest, latest, or listening back to what they heard in high school. They're just, everyone's brain works a little differently. And if the music isn't that important to you, then, you don't need, a stellar world-class DJ, but you do need someone who's competent and experienced that will be able to manage the flow of the night, anticipate, and has experience with weddings, because a wedding is unlike any other event.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You were mentioning that DJs that work for large companies, a lot of times they'll just play the same music at weddings. So how do you customize that experience for your couples? Since everyone is different, some people are going to like rap, others are going to like country. What's your process for that?
Well, when I talk to my couples, the first thing that I want to do is kind of find out what their vision is for the party. How will you know if your wedding is a success? What kind of are the metrics or whatever that you're gauging that on? Is it that the dance floor is packed the whole night and everyone is having a great time? Or is it that you hear the specific songs that you want to hear and that are important to you?
Yeah.
Some couples, they get very fixated on that in the particular songs. And the reality is there's so much happening at your wedding that you're not even going to really pay attention to less than half of the songs that get played. A lot of it's going to be background music during conversations, or you might not even be in the room because you're getting your photo taken or something like that. And I think that if you look at your wedding more as the wedding is about you, but the party is for your guests. This is a gift that you're giving them. You want them to celebrate now two families that are now one family. Then you focus less on maybe the particular songs you want to hear. Let the DJ know how you want it to feel. Maybe some artists that you like. Maybe if you have a particular songs that I have to dance to this song, or like these 5 songs at some point in the night, I need to hear them.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately that will start to give me an idea of what direction we're going to be heading in.
Yeah.
But, every wedding I go into, there's a ton of preparation. But really, most of the songs that I pick, aren't chosen until I'm at the event, until I start seeing the guests and reading the room and the vibe and, what does the room look like? Are we inside? Are we outside? What time of day is it? How are people dressed? What do their haircuts look like? I mean, there's so many details that you don't consciously think about, but if you think let's say you just walk into a hotel,
So have you ever encountered someone that reached out to you and they were like, hey, we actually don't need all of the equipment that you're offering. We just want you to bring a speaker and a microphone. And we already have a playlist. What does that look like? And how did you handle that situation?
Well, that looks like a train wreck. Spoiler alert. I mean, unfortunately, you know, if someone is emailing me with that, you know, on the one hand, I would love to educate that person and say, hey, this isn't going to work out the way you think it will. And I think that this plan that you have is going to be a mistake. But they're not going to listen to me, you know, some random guy. They're just going to assume that I'm just, you know, trying to convince them otherwise so that they hire me. You know, if someone does come to me for that, I'm sorry, we don't do that. You know, I have a minimum for my services, and my minimum package includes myself and a sound system. And you can't, I mean, if you have your own sound system, you know, I'll come and run it after checking it, of course. But you can't just, and honestly, I've had other DJs just borrow my gear before, and it hadn't been a great experience. And, you know, sometimes you get it back and it's not quite in the condition that it left you in. So I don't even do that anymore. You know, it's a crazy thing. You would hope that all DJs, you know, would know how to use their gear, and well, really any gear, since it's not all terribly different. You know, most of it kind of works the same way in principle. But it's really hard, you know, to kind of, you know, tell for sure without getting a chance to see these people.
Right.
I would say a great tool for weeding them out is, you know, just to know where you're looking for these DJs. You know, you're not going to find, you know, a quality DJ on Craigslist. I mean, I really haven't had any experience with Thumbtack, but from what I understand, it's kind of a mixed bag of DJs there as well.
Yeah.
Usually DJs that are on, you know, professional wedding vendor websites like the Knot and Wedding Wire, and there's a bunch of more out there, you know, that have a lot of reviews, and read the reviews too as to what they're saying. If it's just a very generic review and doesn't really specifically talk about anything, that's not really giving you a whole lot of information. Maybe it wasn't that great of an experience, but the DJ was a really nice guy and they feel bad about leaving a bad review and he has to leave one. So, you know, we live in a weird world where everyone is constantly solicited for reviews, feedback, survey. Here's the last chance. Did you fill out our survey? Make sure you fill out our survey.
Right.
And, you know, people know it affects people's businesses. And unfortunately, some people, you know, use that, you know, for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
But the reviews help a lot. But also, you know, like most things in life, you can kind of get a good idea about the quality of something based upon how much it's going to cost.
Right.
You know, if you want to get your car washed somewhere, but it only costs 50 cents, you probably wouldn't expect it to be sparkling clean afterward. But if it was, you know, a $500 car wash, well, you're going to expect that, you know, your car is going to make you dinner that night. It's going to be so clean.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's obviously it's not a hard and fast rule. You know, there are a lot of great DJs out there that just, you know, don't really know their own worth and don't really price themselves accordingly. But for the most part, if you've been doing this for a while, you've been in the business, you know, if you're good at what you do, you probably know who else is out there. You know how much they charge. You have a good idea about how good they are. And, you know, I would say most of the guys that I know are, you know, they're charging about right for the most part, whether that's, you know, a high number or a low number. I know some guys where I say, hey man, you should really bring your rate up. You know, you're a better DJ than that. But for the most part, you know, the guys that are good, they know they're good. You know, they've been doing it a while, and you hear the horror stories about the DJs that aren't, and things that you take for granted, like, what do you mean he was drunk at the, why was he even drinking? He's working, right? Or the mic, like, why was, what do you mean you could hear him eating on the microphone? Why was he even eating in front of guests, let alone having the microphone on? And things that, you know, wouldn't even occur to me to like say, oh, just so you know, I'm going to wear a suit to the wedding. I'm not going to wear, you know, a basketball jersey. Like,
right, yeah.
But
But people forget about those things.
But these things happen, like in real life. Like I've heard crazy stories about just mortifying stories. Like not just like, oh, we asked the DJ not to play the YMCA and he played it anyway. Like, I mean, to me, that's mortifying. But just some really absurd things. I think it's, DJing's a weird industry because it's kind of one of these zero barrier entry things. You go out, you buy a laptop, now you're a DJ. You buy a couple of pair of speakers, boom, I'm a DJ now.
Right.
Especially now with streaming music services, you don't even need to have like a whole collection of MP3s. You just need a Spotify account and okay, cool, now you're a DJ. And unlike, say, a photographer or a florist where you can really see and judge accurate samples of their work,
right?
Some DJs, they don't even have mixes posted to their website. So you're just kind of
going in blind and not really knowing what you're getting.
Yeah, which can be risky. So it's definitely important to do as much research and homework as you can.
Yeah. All right. So let's take me as a client, a bad client. I just want a really cheap DJ. I'm not willing to budge. I say, this is my budget. Give me a cheap DJ. I don't care what it looks like. If you could be totally honest and transparent with me, not holding back, what would you tell me are some things that I'm going to miss out on or regret if I do that?
Well, I'm not sure how cheap your cheap DJ is, but let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that they're kind of making all of the pitfalls and making all the mistakes that someone who's experienced wouldn't.
Yeah.
The first thing you'll notice will be the presentation. A lot of cheap DJs will not show up in a suit. They won't show up, well-groomed, maybe a wrinkly shirt, maybe a t-shirt. I've heard of DJs showing up to a wedding in an undershirt, literally.
Yeah.
Their setup will be a mess. There's wires going everywhere. Their equipment will probably look pretty amateur, like maybe something you could buy at Toys R Us. They will probably have bad quality speakers. And a lot of people say, well, what's the difference? You can't really tell the difference in speaker quality. This sounds okay to me. But the problem is when speakers are cheap, you need to turn them up loud so that you can hear whatever it is in that song that you're listening for, whether it's the bass line or the clap or the kick drum. And so when they get loud, then your ears start to ring and it starts to become an unpleasant experience. All of their gear, will potentially be cheap gear, and then, you work with cheap microphones, you get feedback, people can't hear people so easily.
Yeah.
And it may stop working in the middle. If cheap DJs generally do not have backups. So they, you need a backup microphone, a backup laptop, a backup controller, a backup source for music, something that will play music in an emergency, like a backup laptop or an iPad. You'll want to have at least 2 speakers, additionally a backup if, cheaper speakers fail more often than, quality ones. I've never had a speaker fail on me. But I have had a microphone, that just starts cutting out its interference. So I already have one ready to go. You bring it up. Oh, here you go. Use this one instead.
Yeah, right.
A cheaper DJ will generally not know a lot of music. So it will probably be a lot of the songs. If you Google top 50 songs to hear at a wedding, you're probably going to be, hearing mostly those.
Songs, yeah.
And nothing that's really representative of you and your fiance and your personal tastes and styles of music. It could be music that's completely different, completely inappropriate for the guest. Maybe he's playing all hip hop when you specifically requested no hip hop, but maybe the DJ doesn't really know much else besides hip hop. So, I always say if your budget is really that low, you really are better off than just renting a pair of speakers and hooking up a Spotify playlist. Obviously, go with the premium this time so you don't have the ads. But at least this way, your expectations should be low.
Right.
The music is not going to be beat mixed, so there's going to be silence in between the tracks. There's not going to be a kind of deliberate order to the music to build momentum, to keeping guests engaged and be following those ebbs and flows through the evening. Because obviously dinner music is very different than dancing music.
Right.
But not all dancing music is the same. You know, at several points in the night, your dance floor may turn over, where maybe it's just like you and all your friends' age, maybe it's all your parents' age, maybe it's everyone, you know? Different things happen at a wedding, many of which are unpredictable. So, you know, a good DJ will kind of know to anticipate these things and always be, you know, ready with an appropriate plan of attack.
Yeah.
So, you know, the thing that always gets me is that there's no other vendor at your wedding that has the ability to single-handedly ruin it and make it a horrible experience, or make it the most spectacularly memorable wedding that anyone has been to. And yet, so many couples will not even dedicate 1% of their budget to the entertainment, which is really crazy when you think of how much of an impact it has on the overall event. I think that's because, you know, we have the best job as DJs. I mean, who doesn't want to be a wedding DJ? And, you know, if someone just asked you, hey, do you want to DJ my wedding? It sounds pretty cool, right? But if I said, hey, do you want to arrange all the flowers for my wedding? You'd be like, how much are you going to pay me? I'm not going to do that for free. So you have a lot of people out there who want to be a DJ. And, you know, just like anything else, when the supply goes up, the price goes down. But, you know, fortunately, there are, you know, enough DJs out there who've been doing it long enough and who can kind of see the difference, and, you know, they know their own worth, and they do charge a little bit more. But the difference that it will make will, you know, it will go you from having an, you know, unforgettable wedding at best, hopefully not a terrible wedding, to having a great wedding that your guests are talking about for the rest of their lives.
Sounds like the moral of the story is that you get what you pay for, to say the least.
This is true. So we've talked a lot about the experience. So with COVID, people are still having virtual weddings. How are you able to still tailor the same experience while planning during COVID?
I'll be honest, you're not. A virtual wedding is, I would say it's gonna come close, but it's not gonna come close to your actual wedding. I haven't done many virtual weddings because you wouldn't really need a DJ for that. You would really need, you know, more like, you know, an AV crew and a sound tech or something, you know, to make sure that you have your camera and everything working. I've done a few virtual events, but a lot of the virtual events are more like personality-driven DJs, MCs, people who are on the microphone a lot, more engaging. Maybe they play games, things like that. And for me, it's about choosing the right songs at the right time for the room, for who's in the room, what's happening in the room. And I can't get that, you know, across a camera. What I have been doing have been the micro weddings, or the smaller events. Some in LA, but most I've been, you know, outside of LA, Florida, Texas, Georgia, other states who've been more open. You know, you can, in a lot of cases, well, I haven't gotten COVID yet, so you can safely have an outdoor wedding. You know, with social distancing and masks. I think it's important to remember, you know, to take all the precautions, you know, and to bring, you know, alcohol wipes, sanitized microphones, and switch them out between guests, and make sure you're protecting yourself. But, you know, at this point, we should, all of us, you know, kind of know how the virus is spread and how it's not. And how, you know, things we can do to protect ourselves. And we don't need to be, you know, locked up inside a bunker. You know, we can go and we can have events, you know, at a smaller scale, and they could still be a lot of fun. I mean, I've literally DJ'd a 12-person wedding, and they danced the whole night. So you can still have it's harder. It's a lot harder to DJ a smaller wedding than it is a big one. But, you know, with a little luck and experience,
it can still be a great time.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Okay, so it's 2021, obviously. What are some DJ trends that you're seeing currently?
Well, it's really interesting to see how much DJing has changed in, I guess, just the 15 years that I've been doing it. But there's a lot more focus now on the visual aspects of DJing, what your presentation looks like. Do you have a DJ booth? How good does it look? A lot more people are paying attention to things like lighting and other production elements. And something I'm really seeing a lot of is what they're calling a deconstructed band, you know. So a wedding band has been a very traditional form of wedding entertainment. But a lot of couples today, they feel that their parents want the band a little bit more than they do. Maybe because of, you know, what a band represents, the idea. But a lot of the music that they like, it wasn't made by a band, you know. It was made on a computer. It was made with samples. It was... So a band is not, you know, going to be able to duplicate the song as well as they would, you know, an 80s rock song that, you know, we all know the words to.
Yeah.
So kind of to get the best of both worlds, you have a DJ and you have a live instrumentalist or a couple. So maybe a drummer and a saxophone or a violinist or a trumpet or maybe several. And these are generally all experienced, skilled musicians that they themselves work in wedding bands. And they work with the DJ, sometimes, you know, extensively, you know, a lot of preparation to kind of create, you know, like a planned show. Sometimes it's more the DJ reading the room, playing the right songs, and the instrumentalist reading the DJ and just following, you know, what music's coming and just kind of enhancing and accentuating all the great elements and just making all your favorite songs that much better and way more memorable, because now not only is the musical experience enhanced, but now there's an actual like visual spectacle, you know, there's
person there kind of performing.
It's a literal performance instead of you know, just, you know, me behind there pretending that the knob is like really heavy and really getting into it.
That sounds really awesome. How would you incorporate that in your wedding?
I mean, I think in retrospect, it'd be amazing to have both of those things. But I think a live band or even a deconstructed band is probably a little bit more doable for couples rather than having a full-on live band. So I think that's a really cool idea. It also allows you to play a lot of those like hit songs that, you know, you can reminisce over and they still sound amazing. So I love that trend. I think it sounds super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And also because, you know, people, they want to make sure they're, you know, spending their money wisely. And to get, you know, a band that's really good, that is going to, you know, do your songs justice, it's really expensive. So having, you know, just some really talented musicians and a talented DJ, you know, and now you can, you know, spend more on production or lighting or flowers. You can never have too much money on flowers, right? They're gonna die the next day, but
it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
$100,000 worth of flowers.
$100,000. I mean, at least if you're not doing $100,000 on flowers, who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
Don't even get married.
All right. Well, thank you so much, DJ Krieger, for being here. I think we all learned so much. I know I did.
Yeah, me too.
I hope that you guys watching will enjoy this video. Please leave us questions in the comments because we would love to do a video catered to you guys and what you're wondering. So please leave us some questions. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.